Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Season 5, Episode number 4 of our Warwick Zoom Garden plot. And on tonight's agenda, we have two updates. One is from Cody Gao, and the other is from Mark.
Mark Talchevsky.
Mark
You didn't,
Palczewski. That's
you,
just
you,
what I was going to say. That was just what I was
I
going to
was
say.
on the tip of your tongue.
We've also got some announcements and a couple of Q of A. And actually, I'm going to stop sharing. Let's see. Cody, Cody really likes to do PowerPoint herself, and she did a really special PowerPoint. So I'm going to stop sharing and let her share her screen and do her presentation. Go ahead, Cody.
All right. All right. Is it working? Can you see it?
Yes.
Nice sign.
Thanks.
I like it.
I see them all over town now. It's so nice. This is our little tiny homestead, affectionately known as the Gowstead. This is my first garden over here in this space. So we set it all up this year with the electric fence, and we have some cattle panels, one that bends over like that, the trellis, and the other 16-foot one is just straight for the tomatoes.
Let there be pizza and cheese.
Excellent.
And the only really proliferative thing we've got going on is the peas, but they're so fun. They're as tall as me. And these beautiful flowers. I think I got them from Hudson Valley Seed Co. or Baker's Creek. And yeah, they took off, and the girls love going in there and picking out the peas when the electric fence is off. And these are the tomatoes. I have May 5th, May 9th, and May 18th. My little garden helper over here, she was getting picked on. So she was separated and hanging out with me. I laid the tomato plants down for a day because I heard that they'll sort of naturally bend upwards, so it's easier to trench them into the soil. That didn't really work because it was like a very overcast day. So I ended up just bending them by hand and trying to get as much of the stem in the ground as I could. May 9th, they're pretty far below the trellis. And then May 18th, they're touching the trellis. And then I tried something that I've never done before with wood, which is I charred like the Shishibi-ban kind of Japanese style of curing wood with a torch. Some people say that doesn't work because it'll wash off. I don't know, maybe it will, but I had the thought that they probably just weren't doing it enough. So I just burnt it a lot. So I don't know. We'll see. And then this is sort of yesterday. And I don't know, they're getting a little bit higher. They seem kind of spindly to me. I've been cutting off the suckers because they're really close together. I'm not really sure if I should be doing that. It kind of breaks my heart every time I do, but that's what I've heard, so I'm trying it. And this is my parents in Lake George, the same exact seedlings, and they're much further north, and she did not trench them. And my dad just built her these planters for all the extra tomato seedlings I had, and hers look great. So I don't know, we'll see. And these are the varieties, which I don't know if I'll get there, but if I do, this is what I'm growing. And then these are my sunflowers. There are like 30 of them, and they're all gone, completely gone. Yeah, so that was fun. I had like delusions of grandeur that I would have towering sunflower plants behind my tomatoes, and then at the end of the season I could feed them to the chickens, and yeah, this is where we're at. So I put some beer traps in there, and it seems to be working. I usually, if I find the slugs, I feed them to the chickens, but I haven't fed these to the chickens because it kind of weirds me out that they're floating in beer.
So they just jump in the beer themselves? They're attracted to it?
Yeah, they just walk right in and then they drown themselves apparently.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that was the very next morning. The very next morning, and I had like 6 or 7 of these traps and they were all in there. So that worked really well. I'll probably plant some more sunflowers. I don't think it's too late in the season. I don't know they can go into the fall. So I'll probably try again with this new tactic. I was very excited about the Mexican sour gherkins, these cucamelons, but I planted the seeds, I'm not sure what date, like a long time ago, and they're kind of just stuck in this stage of tiny, and they haven't done a thing. So I'm probably gonna plant some seeds just in little seedling trays to see if I can't get something to happen. I don't know if it's too late, but I was really excited for those because I ate some fresh last year and nothing's going on.
Can I offer a suggestion real quick?
Yeah, please.
It looks like you use a lot of wood chips for mulch.
Yeah.
And that's okay if you do that, but wood chips when they when they uh when they rot, the bacteria that rots them fights for the nitrogen in the soil with the
Okay.
plants. So you might want to give it a little blood meal or a general like organic fertilizer to help boost the plants. They look like they're kind of yellow. So
Yeah,
they
that's
look like they need nitrogen and they're not doing anything, they're not growing. So
yeah,
you
that's
might sprinkle some blood meal or mix some blood meal in with a general organic fertilizer like a 555 or something like that, and then just sprinkle it around the plants and water it in, and that might
great.
help it out.
Yeah, I didn't actually put any wood chips down at all. I like we got all this or so-called organic like raised bed soil and I think it like settled out and they like I don't know, floated to it was very strange, but that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And maybe I'll try that with my tomatoes too because they're looking
Yes.
it might be
Yeah.
the same reason.
Oh, would that much wood chips in a soil? That would be a
Yeah, I
problem.
don't know. It's very
I would think
That
you heap mulch on top of the soil so it doesn't deplete the nitrogen, right? So
well, the wood chips when they I can't think of the word, I'm getting senile, but when they deteriorate, when they break down,
Breakdown.
they break down with bacteria, and the bacteria use nitrogen to break it down. So they're actually whatever nitrogen is there, they're competing against the plants. So it's not a big deal. You just got to give everyone the nitrogen they need. So you got to put a little extra nitrogen in there, a little fertilizer in general. That's what I would think. But blood meal would help. Blood meal is an organic, and you can get it at any store. It's organic. It's just actually dried blood, and
Yeah.
it's very high in nitrogen. But yeah, I I normally don't see people use wood chips for mulch around vegetables, but people do it. It's not gonna, and make good with it. But you just have to take into consideration the nitrogen. It's probably being drawn out by the bacteria.
Great. Yeah, it's because it came in those bags of soil, it's probably all through it too. So it's probably robbing it down in there, I would think then.
Yeah. Once it rots, it'll make great soil.
Okay.
It makes really good soil.
And then we built this front walkway this year, going around our house, and it sort of naturally made this trench of soil. So I asked the guys like not to seed any grass, and I tried to turn it into a little garden, which immediately got completely run over by weeds. So of course, like TikTok sold me on planting a bunch of zinnias and this big zinnia pathway. And they're coming up pretty good, I think. A lot, some of them are getting eaten by bunnies or something. And I direct sowed them, but then I also sowed them in this little seed tray that my 2-year-old subsequently drowned really bad, helping with watering, and half of them made it. But I'm just gonna keep planting them because I think they're pretty, and I think you deadhead them or something and get more. I've never planted them before, but they're so beautiful. And then the new addition this spring is the goats. And we got some little babies. We've been spending all of our time doing that. And the main goal for them is milking eventually and brush removal. So they gnaw and everything. We have like a lot of kind of their height things that they could be eating that's not off the ground we don't want them to get worms. And I hope that they go through and kind of eat the poison ivy, which backfired on me because then they go through the poison ivy and I hold them and now it's all over my arms. but I might have to pull them out, and they're little, so they don't eat a lot right now. But as far as their poop goes, apparently you're supposed to be able to cold compost it. Some people say you put it straight into the garden. But then I've heard some information that it could hold disease, so you might want to let it break down. So I've just been putting it into the compost bin. Like instead of just letting it rot where it is, because they can get worms anyway through their feces. So I just thought it's like two birds, one stone, and I kind of try and collect it and throw it in the composter. And then we have the chickens, that the same thing with the one, they eat all the slugs that I collect. They love them. They go wild. And then we do the deep litter method. I think that like a lot of people do, where you just kind of add more bedding throughout the year instead of cleaning it out. And then 2 times a year, we completely clean it out and I move it over to the compost. Last year, I like put it somewhere on the property and I have no idea where it went. So that's hence the reason why I don't have that compost for my garden this year. But this year it's right next to my garden. I'm gonna mix the browns in with greens and food scraps and stuff and the goat manure. So hopefully we'll have a really nice compost next year for the garden, I hope. And that's a double egg on the left because that was huge and that was cool.
Just built this electric.
And
fence.
then, yeah, and that's it. And then that's a video about an electric fence that it's up to Michael if I play
No,
it.
please go ahead. If people haven't seen this, they should see it.
It's a public service announcement.
First time I've ever done it, and I don't have a little tester to see if it works. So I'm gonna see if my husband will touch it.
Yeah.
You want to touch the electric fence to see if it works?
Okay.
To record it.
Oh my god.
Poor guy.
And then I just pulled my favorite TikTok comment. He touched that with the full-handed barefooted confidence of a city boy, which was true because he was barefooted, and it's just a little bit of a warning. And I will say Michael's biggest fear did come true yesterday because my youngest daughter, who's almost 3, did touch it. And yeah, she did not like it, but she was okay. She was okay in about 20 seconds. So it was, I don't know, decent outcome. Hopefully she only does it once.
One time, yeah, Debbie cracked up the way he said, "Okay," like he was like he like
Yeah,
he
he
didn't
needs
want to
to
do it.
be.
He did it. His wife told him to do it.
So I'll stop sharing now.
Okay.
Okay.
That was great.
That was really great, Cody.
Your garden is great. I'm interested in how the wood thing that you charred the boards. That is really interesting.
Yeah.
It looked really good.
I'm not sure how environmentally friendly that is on the grand scheme of things, because I did use like a giant propane torch. My dad has like a big flamethrower one or whatever, and it was propane, but it was like a big enough flame that you can get through it pretty quickly. I started with one of those tiny ones and it was taking forever, and I was like, there's no way that this is efficient. So I stopped. But I just get weird about the treated lumber, and the cedar was so expensive that I thought I would try it. I know Japanese people do it for like siding on their houses and stuff, so I figure there must be a way.
So it was untreated. It wasn't treated lumber. It was just regular like pine or
Yeah.
spruce or whatever, and it wasn't cedar. And you just charred it to preserve it.
Yeah.
That's a great. I'm going to try
That's
that
a
because
great
that sounds
idea.
like a great idea.
I think
Like
a better way, like environmentally, might be just putting it into a fire pit and like kind of doing it that way, but you get less control. So
Yeah.
Let us know how that goes, okay?
yeah.
You're very adventurous. I love this.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
And Mark Paczewski.
So I think I showed my garden a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago or so, when it was just starting to take off. So I have 2 plots in the community garden. Plus, I help my neighbor has a plot, and I work with her a lot to get her plot going. So this is my original plot, and you can see where I have areas designated. They're either raised beds or they're just areas with that are marked off with the little cedar fencing of where I plant. And then this year I've done it prior, but I've had problems with voles before. But this year, in the walkways, instead of using wood chips, I didn't feel like hauling over a ton of wood chips, and my back's killing me. So I just planted mini clover, which is a variety of clover that supposedly grows very low. It doesn't grow very fast. So the rows are filled with clover. That's the green you see, and then the beds are filled with. Well, I have clover in some of them. If you point to the one at the corner, that's a mint in a bucket with some alyssum around it. Just north of that, is beds of marigolds that were directly planted. If you go just east of that, yep, that's red crimson clover. I'm gonna just turn that over in the soil. Over all the way in the right hand side is lavender. Next to that is some herbs. I have French tarragon, some oregano, variable pineapple mint, and some dianthus in the raised bed next to that with the blue pot. I have rosemary in the blue pot. I have a boxwood in front of it, and cinnamon, two types of thyme, English and lemon, and then a marjoram, and the gaps filled in with a couple varieties of basil. Just north of that is another bed area. That's comfrey, which I just use. I used to use the comfrey for fertilizer. I'm going to start making comfrey tea with it. I've heard you just take the comfrey, you stick it in a 5-gallon like Lowe's bucket or Home Depot bucket with water, let it rot, and then you just add it to your vegetables, and it's supposedly great fertilizer. And around that comfrey is I planted 2 rose bushes and some black-eyed Susans. Then if you go north of that, there's irises, bearded irises, and then there's a raised bed north of that, and that has borage, which is in the same family as comfrey, but it's an annual, and that's again like a ground cover crop that I'm just going to use when the bees love it. In a couple of weeks, I'll just chop it down and turn it into the soil to improve the soil. In the big raised bed, the big metal one, which is kind of caving in. I don't know why. I don't know what happened with that. I just have buckwheat there. I think I'm gonna put some bush beans in there later in the year, maybe in July or August for a fall crop. And then I don't know if there's another picture of it, but just beyond the bales of straw, there's another raised bed with crimson clover in there to improve that bed. And then you can't see, but on the other side of the steel raised bed, I have.
You've got more pictures. Maybe we'll
Oh,
see.
okay. Then we can flip it and see if okay, get a better angle on that. We can go to the next picture. Okay, that's what I was going to show you. This is the other side of the steel raised bed. I have 2 areas with onions. The one on the left I planted the last week of April, and that's doing really well. I took compost from my home as well. The one on the right I planted 3 weeks later, and they're not doing quite as well. And just north of that, I have some parsley, and then to the left of the onions is my clover, and to the right is my neighbor's. So those weeds are not mine. And same thing with the other picture. If you look to the actually, is that one? I'm trying to think where that is. Oh yeah, to the left of it is the clover path, and to the right is my neighbor's. And then at the very end is a mint. And that's the plot I've had for the last 8 seasons. So I think that might be the end of if there's any more pictures.
Oh, yeah. You got like 5 more pictures.
Oh, okay. So
5 more
this
slides.
okay, so this is another angle of it. You can see better the rosemary. I have these clay spikes that I put into the soil, and then you take a bottle, a wine bottle or a soda bottle or water bottle, and you upend it, filled with water, and it helps keep it moist in the times I can't get there. Not so much now, but in the summertime it really helps. And then that other picture there, oh, that's just a picture of the crimson clover with the dianthus in the background, and you can see the tarragon and the lavender wands coming out. And then again, the walkways filled in with mini clover. It's like a type of white clover, Dutch clover. And let's see if we have any more shots here. Okay. This is the same bed. This is another angle. You can see the crimson clover. You see how really thick and full it gets in that one bed? It gets really thick and full. It puts out this beautiful crimson triangular flower that the bees love. Once it's done flowering, I'll just turn that into the soil as a cover crop, and I'll just let it rot naturally, and it really improves the soil. And then you can get a better angle on the borage next to it. Same thing. After that's done flowering, I'll just turn that over. The bucket in front of it just holds mint with the, if you go, yeah, it's a little, just, yeah, right there. That's just a mint plant. And then the picture on the left is just prostate rosemary that I picked up in the springtime. And again, I have the spike in it with the inverted bucket. And that I had last year, but I didn't overwinter it. I think I didn't bring it in quick enough and it died. So I just picked up a new one. But that'll spread all over the pot. That'll be nice. And then you can see the clover field in there. And let's see if we have any more pictures, or we get to the other plots. Okay, so this is my second plot. We get one plot as in the community garden. If there's not enough gardeners, if there's extra plots, then we get to either keep the second plot we had last year, or we get offered a second plot. So this is my second plot. And on the left-hand picture, you can see in the foreground is my potatoes. In the middle, beyond that row, this I keep kind of more traditional. I have beds in rows, and the rows I just use mulch, wood mulch, wood chips that the town provides. So the potatoes are in the front. The middle row is Cracker Jack marigolds in that middle mass in there, and then at the ends I have pole beans. And then in the far distance, or if you look at the second picture, in the far distance, I have some tomatoes there with some cucumbers. And then in the far distance, I have my squash, and I have a bed of dill. I like dill a lot. So I plan on drying it this year. And actually, I want to get dill weed, which is just dried dill, and I want to get some dill seed, so I'll let it seed. I use dill a lot of them. I'm eating a lot more fish lately, so I use a lot of dill on my fish and vegetables. So let's see if there's any more pictures. Maybe better another angle of this. Okay, then yeah. So this is an angle from the other side, and on the left-hand picture, you can see in the foreground my zucchini. There is a zucchini or patty pan. I forget which. I forgot to label them. And you can see the back side of the pole beans and the Cracker Jack, and then just to the right of that, in the middle, is the dill patch. And then, oh no, sorry, on the other picture. Yep, you go up a little bit to the left. No, yeah, that's the dill patch right there. I see. What I do when I seed when I put seed in, I don't go by the directions. I just buy it like by the ounce or by the pound, and I seed heavily, because we have a lot of bindweed and amaranth in the garden. So if you don't put a lot of seed down, you get a lot of weeds coming through. So I probably put like 50 times more seed than they recommend. I just put a ton of seed down, water it, and the seed comes in so thick that it basically doesn't allow the weeds to come through.
But do you find it's too much though? Is it trying to choke itself out in a way?
Well, that's a good question. What happens is actually it becomes this just mass of that plant. Like if you go individually, yeah, the plants are really scrawny, but there's just so many of them that like it just looks like that'll look like one big mass of Cracker Jack marigolds.
Yeah.
If you poke through, it's like, oh, this plant is like has one flower and one stem. But when they're that close together, it gives this massive look to it. So it doesn't really, it's more for the weeds. If I like space them 6 inches apart or whatever, the weeds will come right through. So this way, the plants growing the Cracker Jack marigolds will just overtake any weed in there. And I still have to weed it somewhat, but not nearly as much as if I gave it that much space. And it just kind of takes over and prevents the other weeds from coming up. And it looks the same as if I planted them apart. So I mean, the only downside is maybe you have to spend more money on seed. But when you buy it by the pound or the ounce, it's really cheap. Like I get a pound of marigold seed for $22 or $21, or a quarter pound for $21. If you bought the equivalent in packages, it would probably cost you like $700 or $800. It's amazing. You open up a pack and they give you like 250 milligrams or 250 grams or whatever. I mean, it's just amazing how much you can get. So if you ever are going to do a mass planting of anything, herbs or flowers or whatever, look into getting like, you might want to look into getting like an ounce of it, or even a quarter pound if it's a big enough area. But like an ounce of seed, an ounce of some of these seeds is like $10. And if you buy two packs, it's like almost the equivalent. 3 packs is the equivalent. And the amount of seed is 100 times more.
Mm.
So, or get it and split it with friends. And there's different, like Eden Brothers has it by the bulk. Territorial, I think, has it by the bulk. I think Johnny's Select Seed might have it by the bulk. I use Eden Brothers because I have the best luck with them and they have a good variety. So anyway, that's what you see there. Just literally a huge amount of seed thrown in there to grow and just choke out the weeds. And then you can see the pole beans, and then you can see the potatoes in that. So that's that plot. That's basically just some tomatoes. I have another, my neighbor and I grow tomatoes in the third patch, so we're gonna share our tomatoes. So I think the tomatoes I'm growing in that patch there, I'm gonna give to the food pantry. And I'll give them the squash too. And then this is the third plot. This is my neighbor's plot. And I take care of it for. And this is the one that I've shown this in the past, where I just basically put, I cover it with hay, like a really thick layer of hay, the whole thing. And then I just dig holes out and plant the plants. So you can see where the tomato cages are, and you can see where the plants are. And then in the middle, there's 4 little holes where I have this, some squash. And then on the right-hand side, I have my peppers. Or we have our peppers. So I got these plants this year at a place called, I think Country Chili. I think I talked about it before. It's down by near Trenton, in New Jersey. They grow chili and tomato and basil and eggplants, but they supposedly have the biggest variety of peppers in the world. They have like over 400 varieties of peppers. So I can post the website after I'm done with the presentation. And the plants were good. They were good and healthy. They'll ship them to you. Me and my friend Lynn, we took a drive down there earlier in at the 3rd week of May and picked the plants up. It's not a bad drive. It's Western New Jersey, and it's very rural. It's like Orange County. You know, it's wide open. It's not like, you know, Paramus or Newark kind of New Jersey. It's the rural part of New Jersey. It's really pretty. It's a nice drive. And the plants, they just have an amazing selection of plants. If you're into hot tomato, hot peppers, they have hundreds of varieties of hot peppers. You know, all these things you never heard of. The ones that, like, you take one pepper and it can, like, you know, 1,000 people's mouths will be on fire, whatever. You know, those really hot ones. I don't know. I don't like them, but I have a friend who likes them, and I'm going to grow some for him. And the rest of the peppers were kind of unique, and they had a really good variety of tomatoes, because I like to buy like I saw you, Cody. You like to get the ones that you don't get in the store. Like, you got the Jersey Devil and the Black Beauty. I like the weird ones. I don't like I like growing the regular ones, but I like growing the odd ones too.
The fun
Just-
ones.
Yeah, the fun ones. So the tomatoes are 12. I think there's 8 tomato plants and 14 peppers, and I don't think I have a doubling up on any of them. So they're all going to be unique. So we'll see. They always start off slow in this patch for some reason, but within a month they'll be 3/4 up the cage, or so. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully this year's the same. So, and I think that's it. I don't know if there's any more pictures, but I think that should be it. Okay, great. So that's how it's progressing. So far, so good. I have no complaints. Everything seems to be coming up good. Not really any issues with bugs. I see a little bit of Colorado potato beetles on some of my potatoes, but nothing terrible. So far, so good. I have nothing to report but good news so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
What-
you.
How many years have you grown tomatoes there in that one plot?
In that one spot, I used to rotate my crops, and I just got tired of doing it. And I read a couple of things online that's basically a lot of people don't do it and they never have an issue. So I started not rotating. It's probably the 4th year I haven't rotated. But I use a lot of mulch, and the mulch gets decomposed, so the soil's really good. And I always put in a good couple scoops of organic fertilizer in there every year, just to make sure that there's nothing like lacking in there.
I gotta say, your plots always look so lush. I want to run through it barefoot. I mean, they're gorgeous.
Well, if you want to come, that's why I put the clover there, so you can run through the clover
That's
barefoot.
what it looks like.
Did you get the
Does the
clover and
clover?
seeds?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Sorry.
the clover with seed. Yeah, I bought the
Okay.
clover and seeds, and I buy that by the pound. I buy the clover by the pound. So listen, if you ever want seeds or anything, let me know. I can hook up with your get. But I still have tons of clover seeds, so I can or I have some. I can get it to you if you ever want to do that for cover crop. Let me know.
Does it just spread once you plant it once?
Well, yeah, it will spread. It's there are downsides to it. You gotta, it will spread. It's some people don't like it because they say it's invasive. Um, but you seem to have a really good handle on your plants. You don't seem like the type who would let it do that. You have a very good garden, so I don't think you have to worry. But it will spread. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but your garden looks really good. So I don't think you're the type who would let it get out of control. So.
Do people do that for their whole lawn?
Uh, People are starting to do it more and more because they're realizing that the clover actually puts nitrogen back in the soil. I used to work for a lawn care company. I used to be in the lawn care industry, and we used to spray to kill the clover. And now it's like, I don't know why you do that because it's a real good component of the grass.
Did you
even
mow
if
it at all once? Have you mowed it at all?
that clove, what I did was I took a hand weed whacker. I didn't use an electric or gas one, just a hand weed whacker. And just before I took those pictures, I weed whacked it a little bit by hand. So you do have to weed whack it and keep it under control. You have to make sure it doesn't spread into your beds. But I think it's worth it. It improves the soil. The flowers are there for the bees. It looks nice. I think it's just, I want my garden to look. I don't want it to look perfect. I want it to look like kind of like well worn in, like old fashioned. I go for looks, and that plot I want to look like, yeah, it's not perfect, but it kind of looks cozy, like a cozy little plot, That's the look I was going for with this. So we'll see how it goes. But you
Yeah,
do have
you've
to keep
achieved
up on
it.
it.
You've achieved it for sure. Last year too, I felt the same way about it. Really nice.
Thanks.
Theoretically, we should go to our shimmy in place now, but
Yes.
I know Chris is going to leave in like 3 minutes, and I wonder if he had any comments or questions that he wanted to throw in before he drove off into the sunset.
The only one, and I put it on the chat there, is when we were looking at Cody's garden, using the blood meal. Blood meal is a great source of nitrogen. However, since it's a solid fertilizer, a lot of times it can take time to break down. If you need something right away, the best thing I've ever found is diluted fish emulsion. And it's almost pure nitrogen. It's basically like the byproduct of the fishing industry, and they're all kind of ground up into a slurry. And my go-to with that is actually a diluted fish emulsion, where I use compost tea as kind of the additive to it. But that fish emulsion will get the nitrogen to the plant since it's liquid right away on there, and get them to take it up. And I noticed, Cody, some of your tomatoes had a little bit of a yellow tint to them.
Yeah.
That's definitely almost always a nitrogen deficiency.
So can
on
you
that.
do too much of either one, the fish emulsion or the blood meal, and like not get any fruit, or is it just if they look like that, you just put it in?
You could do too much, but it's going to be really hard to if you just do like if you dilute it and follow directions on there, because it's literally, you're going to put like a little dollop into a 5-gallon bucket and then fill it up with water. And once you smell that, you're not going to want to put anything of a greater concentration because it smells horrible, but it's a great fertilizer.
Good. I'm glad I did this. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you're right. Fish emulsion. My friend's doing it in the garden next door, and it works fantastic. Her garden is fantastic. It looks great.
Okay, well, at that point, so we're a little bit late for our shimmy in place, but let's do it. Now's
Okay,
the time.
I'm going to get off now. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for
Thanks,
joining us,
Christopher.
Chris.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sally, what should be on Joe Rogan?
Oh, you were wearing a Joe Rogan t-shirt while you were electrocuting your
Yeah.
husband.
Some people, yeah.
Joe
Anyways,
Rogan
this is being recorded. Never mind. I'll tell you later.
Cody, I have a question for you, and you can totally say this. And I'm sorry, are we shimmying? Is this okay to talk?
You can talk while you're shimmy.
Okay, so I was wondering, is there any chance I could borrow or have the photo, a copy of the photo that you have with your daughter in front of the sign?
Oh
Because
yeah.
the Warwick Advertiser is doing an article, and they asked me for some photos.
Oh
And,
yeah. Yeah,
that would
for
be
sure.
perfect. That would be so great.
I like
So-
everyone to see how cute my children are.
Yeah, thank you. You can do you have my email address, or you could send it to pollinators at Sustainable Warwick, and then I can snag it. Yeah, thank you. That'd be great.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Michael, I not be able to use your photo. I'm just kidding. Cody's is really cute.
It is.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Cody, I have another question for you about your garden. Is there a lot, do you get a lot, is it in a shady area, or do you get a lot of sun? It kind of looked like a little shady, like.
Yeah, it is not ideal. Like it definitely gets southern sun exposure. That's the more intense one, right? But
Yes.
yeah, but it's still between some trees in my house. So it's not as sunny as I would like it to be. It does get like a lot of sun throughout the day, but I know that's not a good answer, but
Is
it
it
could be an
dappled
issue.
sun, or is it like pure? Because the reason I'm asking is because your dad's tomatoes, maybe that's the reason that they're growing a little quicker, is because you may not have enough sun.
Yeah,
Would that be
possibly.
possible?
If the fish emulsion blood meal doesn't work, I might consider it to be a sun issue, and then I might put it in my backyard, which would be the only thing that would get full sun throughout the day. It's a giant hill, so I was not wanting to dig my beds into the hill, but I'll do it if that ends up being what I think is the problem.
Yeah, I
That could
think Chris
definitely be it.
Chris is the fish meal. Yeah, that's actually a really good choice, because it will work quicker than the blood meal. The meal will work, but it'll take a little bit longer. But if it's not one of those, then it might be an issue with the sun. I'm
Okay.
just I'm just trying to think. 'Cause it looked like it was right next to the house, and I noticed, like when you had pictures, you had these big trees lining your property.
Yep.
It looked beautiful.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it works, because I would love to keep it there.
Yeah.
Very good. So folks, we have a few announcements today. I don't have dates on one of these, but this Friday, if anyone's free at 9 in the morning, over at Wickham Woodlands, we did this. Sally and I and a couple others went to Mountain Lake Park, and we found this big old cedar tree that underneath it had like a lot of invasive plants growing, especially oriental bittersweet. And so we went in and cleaned it out, and there were a couple lower branches that were like dead. So we cut those off, and now it's going to be easier to mow over there. And so this tree, of course, the oriental bittersweet will keep coming back. But what's really nice is I did that, and then I came home and I was looking, oh, wait a minute, that's oriental bittersweet growing up my cedar tree, or wherever it was, which on one hand can be disturbing. On the other hand, it's good to know, because while it's small, it's easier to take out. And if you keep taking it out repetitively while it's small, it will not get big. So we'll be having a group of people doing a similar thing out at Wickham Woodlands on Friday morning at 9 a.m. If you're free, or if you have a friend who wants to join us, please let us know. You can contact us at pollinators@sustainablewarwick.org. And Cody, that was the email address where she was hoping to get your picture. And on June 29th, the Warwick Valley Gardeners will be having their countryside garden tour. There's a big all-day event. I don't know the exact details about that, but if you just save that day and look for details, we'll be happy to get it to you. And the Dirt Garden Tour is coming up. Does anybody know when that is?
It's July.
Yeah, it's not until July, but they are.
Yeah.
Oh, and the website kitchengardentours.com. When I was rushing to put this together just before the showtime tonight, I somehow couldn't get the page to come in. So I didn't get the date yet, but that's the website. And Mark, you're trying to say something, but you're on mute.
So sorry, I apologize. What is the Dirt Garden Tour?
Dirt Magazine has people and community gardens host a tour. So you sign up as you say, oh, I want people to come see my garden. And then they give everyone who signs up, and there's a cost to sign up. They give everyone a map, and it's sort of a self-guided tour. You go from one place to the others, whichever ones you want to see. And then at the end of the night, they have a big party and they vote on which is the best garden, and they give out prizes.
Okay, I'm gonna sound really ignorant, but what is Dirt Magazine? I've never heard of it.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I can't
Wow.
believe it.
Sorry. I want to get on this. I want to get involved. That sounds, what you just described sounds pretty cool. So like, so just go to Dirt Magazine and just type in Dirt Magazine and
I think the website is dirt-mag.com.
are they local or is it like a
Yeah,
local?
it's yeah.
And does it have to do with like Warwick Pine Island area? Because the black
It's
dirt is,
no, it's much bigger than that, and it's yeah, actually, I'm the copy editor of this publication, so I see it before everyone else does. It comes out quarterly now. The next one will be out on July 1st. Sometime you always often to bring down plans. Sometime when you stop down, I'll give you an extra copy.
okay. Yeah, that's yeah. I'm gonna go to the website and I'm gonna check it out.
I just put the link in the chat if you want it.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And another announcement: we still have our pollinators welcome signs. Are these old pictures, or did they turn out different than these?
No, those are the signs. That's how,
Okay.
for some reason when we did this, the bee was like a little smaller. I don't know why. Like
Okay.
on the
It doesn't say Warwick on it or anything.
I thought it did.
oh yeah, these are old. These don't.
I'll
These
update my signs next time, but they're now they're available at Corwin Florists. You could email us at pollinators@sustainablewarwick.org if you want to ask more questions. But if you want to buy one, they're $15 a piece, and you can get them at
1.5.
Yeah, you can get them at Corwin's. And we have a couple questions today. What's your go-to method for keeping chipmunks and other scamps out of your garden? Does the smell of marigold, lavender, or rosemary really make them turn away?
No.
I want to say I have in my front lawn, we put down wood chips over like one half of the lawn. And I've been meaning to plant something in there, and it's just been putting off and putting off and putting off. And every morning I sit out there, and now there's three chipmunks, three squirrels, who spend their morning poking their nose into the soil and chewing on something, and then going over to the next spot and doing the same thing. They just love this wood chip stuff. Does anybody have a solution for?
May I chime in?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, we've had some luck. I call them sacrificial crops. Okay, because I can't kill the chipmunks. I've been watching them for years, and they cause havoc in our garden. So we planted field peas, which we sacrificed, and then we're not fruit people. They love the strawberries. So what's happening is they're eating the strawberries, and we're able to get our seedlings in and allow them to grow and establish while the chipmunks are busy with the strawberries and the field peas.
Do you have them placed somewhere to keep so that it keeps them away?
Kind of away, right? Exactly. But I tell you, the chipmunks, they go all over, and
Yeah.
and they can even. And I kept saying, maybe we should put more hardware cloth. And my son said, it really doesn't make any sense, Mom, because we've got 2 feet already, and then we've got a 4-foot fence railing. And he said they go right up and over the fence.
Yeah.
So it's so far it seems to have worked. The strawberries are keeping them away, so we put the tomatoes in, and they've stayed away. And so hopefully the field peas will do the work, when the squash, etc. come. So
Yeah,
Yeah, good luck.
that was my question, because I have mine in garden boxes on my deck, and the deck is up on the second floor. And they're just nibbling away at my strawberries, and I was given a small potted hanging tomato plant, and the plant itself had one of those wilt diseases, you know, where it all kind of curls up on the ends. But the tomatoes still were red, and so I put that over by the steps of the deck so they encounter that first, and that's my sacrifice. And they're
Yeah.
definitely gorging themselves on that, but they're still going for the strawberries.
Oh, well, that's our sacrifice crop. Okay, because we're like more veggie people than fruit people. So
Yeah,
they love the strawberries.
they do. They
Mhm.
do.
We have a lot of people in the garden who grow strawberries, and that's the biggest headache they have. The chipmunks just come in there and they take one bite and they go to the next one,
Yes.
take one bite,
Yes,
go to the next one,
right.
take
They
one
just
bite.
destroy everything.
Yep. And the same with our tomatoes. We usually the tomatoes that are low, I don't know if it's voles or if it's chipmunks, but usually the low tomatoes are sacrificed. You rarely get a tomato that's close to the ground that comes out intact. The ones up high, they don't touch. But the ones on the bottom, it's like, 90% of them get eaten by some small critter like a vole or a chipmunk.
I was at Michael's garden in his yard, and with my grandsons, and he has so many strawberry plants that I guess you just by the sheer number you'll still get some strawberries out of the deal. I certainly enjoyed them. Thank you.
Yeah,
I keep seeing
I was gonna say the same thing. Michael, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, you have an abundance of strawberries, even though you have chipmunks.
Maybe it's the squirrels I was talking about. Those are in the front yard, and the strawberries are in the backyard. But yeah, a lot of our strawberries, I tell everyone who visits, if you find one that's half bitten by something, you throw it over your left shoulder. And the others you put in your,
Michael, are your strawberries fenced?
yes, there's a deer fence,
Yeah.
so the deer don't browse on them.
I keep seeing online people paint rocks to look like strawberries, and it's supposed to like make them mad or something. I don't know. I think it really only works for birds because they come down, they peck it, and they're like, "Oh, that's not a fruit."
Maybe the chipmunk breaks his tooth and gets the, I don't know.
And then seeks revenge or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Sarah wrote to me and gave me her answer, and she said she doesn't own a gun, but has been tempted with the chipmunks. But she said that her dog definitely helps with her boxes that are on the deck. When the dog is out, it keeps them away. So that was her 2 cents.
We have another question here about how severe is the gypsy moth infestation in your area? I visited up in Ulster County for the coolest recycling drive, and I was just inundated. I was just, I'd been there about 10 minutes and I realized, wait a minute, I'd set my backpack down and it was covered with the caterpillars, and, everything was covered like really quick. And I had this terrible outbreak on the back of my neck and stuff. It was pretty miserable. Haven't seen any here.
Yeah.
John, you have no gypsy moths out there, or I'm sorry, not politically correct, spongy moths. You have none out there in Warwick?
I don't seem to.
Really?
Yeah.
We had to change our hiking because I walk with a couple of my neighbors, and we could not walk back in the forest because there was so much what is the silk? Like we were getting covered with the silk from the trees, and then
the poop
thought they were thought they had mud on their shoes, and it was not mud, it was poo.
Yeah. If you stand under a tree that's really badly infected at night, it sounds like it's drizzling. It's their poop.
Yes, right.
My God.
I mean, we're like hit or miss. Like it's some trees are not touched, and others look like it's the middle of the winter. They're just stripped bare. But their favorite trees are the oaks. A lot of oak trees are stripped bare. But like we have a sugar maple in the front. We have a neighbor who has a Crimson King maple, and their maple's getting ripped apart, and ours is getting chewed on. But most of it's still there. but like you can see like underneath the sidewalk where the tree is under, it's stained with poop. It's like, ugh,
Mark, I just want to ask, has anybody experimented with using as it a fertilizer in their garden?
you know what? I was thinking of that. I was thinking, is there a way of scooping this up and like composting it or fertilize? But like, it's almost like sand, and it's like, you know. And then the other thing I was thinking of, what if you pick them off and throw them in your compost and let them rot? Like, would that be good compost? You know.
I did read that when they fall down under the tree and it's a big mass of them and they're rotting, that the smell is probably as
Yeah.
bad as fish. That fish,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
supposed
now
to be horrendous.
they're climbing down the trees onto the trunk of the trees, because the females go down the trunk and then they go pupate, and then anyway they're crawling down to get ready for their next stage in life. And my neighbor has tons of them, and my wife's like, go pick them off. I'm like, I'm not picking them off. You go pick them. And she's like, I don't know. She's even more grossed out. It's like, I'm like, I don't want to go near those things. Don't walk the dog under the tree, like, you know, the whole thing. But I'm thinking, like, I really think like maybe I'll go there and just pick a barrel of them and make them into like compost. I mean, they didn't rot and turn into compost. I mean, like what do they say, when you have lemons, make lemonade, you know.
Mhm.
But I think you're right, Michael, with the frass. I wish I could do something with it, the poop, but it's so fine. It's like a very, it's almost like sand.
Hmm.
Folks, I'm hoping to finish by 8:30. I do want to squeeze in one more question.
Okay.
I had some radishes this year. It's supposed to be icicle radishes. They're supposed to grow to like 3 or 4 inches long. And they went from sort of small radishes to seeding. They went to seed really quick. And I had planted them early. And it's like, is it really this just is not the right variety for here? Is this the wrong season? I mean, the wrong, weather pattern this year? What do we have to say about that?
I just wanted to say that the woman I was telling you about, Jen, she was saying the same thing about the radishes she planted. She actually showed me pictures. She had the same problem. So I don't know if it's the too much heat, too early this year. I don't know. She said it bolted. That's what happened to her too.
Oh,
That's sort of an interesting local gardening
Yeah.
bit of insight.
Michael, do you like daikon or daikon radishes?
I do. But you can't start those in the spring, can you? You start those towards
I use them as a cover crop, and I start them in the fall. But when I plant them, I get a bunch of them that are like as big as my forearm. They're humongous.
I remember seeing that last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna find where you live, or I'm not hunting you down. I'm not stalking you, but I'm gonna find out where you live, and I'm going to give you a couple this fall if I get time. I want to try to give you some as a friendly gesture, not as a stalker or some weirdo. Just
we can work something out.
all right.
Sally, before we go, could you pop that email into the chat because I can't spell and it came back to me.
Oh, yes, sure.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Everyone talks about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. I like going on this AccuWeather.com, and it tells us where our weather has been. And what do you suppose this average high temperature is? I couldn't figure that out for July. Maybe the average high is usually 86 or something. Is that true? But they're talking about from the 8th to the 29th are supposed to be the average high days for the year. That's of July. Meanwhile, we're still moving up. These charts are, the one problem is theoretically this orange should go to this and the blue should go to that, but and you notice we've had a couple really nice cool days, but we do have a few toasty days ahead of us, especially at the end of this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. The weather at night's been very chilly the
Mm.
last couple nights.
Good sleeping weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for joining us. Is there anyone who's on the call who I was going to ask? It would really be nice if we started working out who was going to do the presentation next month. But if there's anyone here who wants to volunteer the next meeting, but Linda, what about you?
Oh, I'm too much of a novice, Michael. I'm great at
Oh, no,
maintenance.
no,
I'm great at cleanup.
no.
Yes, yes, yes. I truly am. I
But we're
truly
all here to support
And
you.
you know what else? I have another responsibility to do a presentation, so I'm already panicking over that. So please let me just come and listen for a bit.
Okay.
That's
And
fine.
I
That
have
sounds
to
great.
tell you, the two presentations were very, very good.
Yeah.
Really
Yes.
nice. Thank you
Excellent.
so much for sharing. And
Thank you.
it's so interesting to see what people are doing and to really thank you.
It actually is, I think it's a really meaningful thing for somebody to say, I planted all of these sunflowers and each and every one got eaten by a slug. Because otherwise, that's what happens to all of us gardeners, right? That happens all the
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
And usually you get, oh, this is my sunflower patch. You don't, there's no, they don't show that, well, actually, the 14 other things I planted didn't come up this year. They just show the sunflower patch because that's what looks good.
Yeah.
So that really is greatly appreciated.
Well, moving
And-
forward, I'll keep that in mind. I promise that if I can take some pictures and things, but just not next month. I have to do pest management. for
But
people.
I've come to there's no wrong way to garden. It's just different ways. There's no right or wrong way. Everyone has their own way of doing it, and every way is just as good as the next.
Unless
So
you
no-
use pesticides.
we avoid that. Yeah.
True.
But-
I just
but
feel as though I'm always cleaning up, that I'm not ever planting. So that's like my goal this summer is to keep planting and taking notice of if anything grows and what it does. I'm always in cleanup mode. Maintenance. I'm going to be great at maintenance.
So our next meeting will be June 24th. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you very
It
much.
was
Take
great.
care. Stay well. Stay safe.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Take care.